The young man slowly approached the fountain in the middle of the square, in the center of which stood a tall statue of the god of the seas, Neptune. The gentleman stopped and examined it appraisingly, paying special attention to the trident in the hands of the ancient deity. To examine it in detail, he even had to squint. Neptune rose to a high above the center of Bologna. After that, the man took out a notebook and a pencil and began to make sketches. He wanted to capture the detail of the monument in all its details and glory. After all, he was asked to do this by his brothers, Carlo and Alfieri, with whom he recently discussed the logo of their future company. Still, it's good when there are not only technicians in the family. Well, the artist indeed came in handy for something. Mario was the only one of the 6 sons of Rodolfo and Caterina Maserati who wasn't fond of cars, but he never felt any embarrassment or any shame at all about it. After all, God has given everyone the talents and abilities, and therefore you should not envy others, especially family members. It's not good. The brothers must help each other, and he will also do everything in his power to make the new company successful. That's what Mario thought and involuntarily sank into memories of the past. The period between the 2 world wars was a time of rapid development of the automotive industry when a number of companies appeared in Europe, offering more and more advanced innovative products for everyday life. One of them was the Italian company Maserati, which from the very beginning specialized in exclusive cars of sports and business classes. Its creators were the Maserati brothers, who were fond of auto racing and automotive technology in general, and their brainchild has existed for more than a century since its creation. And the greatest contribution to the success of the company was made by a man named Alfieri Maserati, who was not only a talented mechanic and designer, but also a capable racing driver. How did he and his brothers manage to achieve such impressive result? Welcome to Wealth History, the channel dedicated to the success, rules, and moral convictions of famous as well as influential and rich people in history. Today, let's discuss Maserati brothers and the history of such a prominent brand. Hard work will break any obstacles. Although Alfieri Maserati was not the eldest among the brothers, he certainly became their main leader. Despite the fact that the first child of the family, Carlo, was born 6 years earlier than him, he began to take an interest in the cars before others. And just then did he pass on his interest in technology to his brothers, who began to say that it was not blood that flowed in their veins, but pure gasoline. For the next son of the Maserati spouses, Bindo also became a motorist, and his younger sons Ettore and Ernesto followed him. Though all the brothers were quite capable and dedicated guys. For example, the same Carlo, at the age of 17, personally developed a single-cylinder engine for a bicycle and manufactured it himself, and then took part in races. Later, he became a motorist and easily got a job at Fiat as a test driver, and then moved to another company, Isotta Fraschini. He didn't work there for long, but managed to do a very important thing. He helped his brother Alfieri, who was 16 years old at that time, to get a job in there, while Alfieri will later bring Ettore and Bindo there as well. In other words, the family was friendly and its members helped each other quite a lot. This means that mutual assistance and mutual respect played a big role in their success, without which it would be much more difficult to achieve it, if possible at all, since the family was not rich and wasn't noble, and therefore everything had to be achieved on their own, at the expense of their own efforts, which automatically means that hard work and diligence were pivotal. All the Maserati had to put a lot of effort into their recognition on the global scene. Grow your brand. It's utterly important. Carlo, who was fond of motor racing, infected Alfieri with this business, but his success in this was variable. But there is a silver lining. After one of the losses of the race, he thought about improving the design of the engine. Then he had problems with the ignition, and now Carlo has developed a more advanced scheme. In general, he was a capable person, and it's sad that fate gave him less than 30 years of life. Sadly, he fell seriously ill with tuberculosis, and the medicine of that time could not cope with the disease and help him in any way. Remembering this, Mario took out a handkerchief and wiped a tear that involuntarily came from his eye. Yes, he feels very sorry for his brother. But his work was continued by Alfieri, who also experimented with car electrics and eventually developed a spark plug with much more reliable insulation. He worked a lot for Isotta Fraschini for several years, raced and improved cars, but had long since begun to think about his own, or, if being more accurate, family business. And finally, it came to the implementation of this idea and realization. To this, Alfieri also attracted his brothers. But if Bindo, Ettore, and Ernesto felt like fish in water with technology, then Mario was the only rock in water among them. And when a new car repair shop appeared in Milan called Società Anonima Officine Alfieri Maserati and there was a need for its logo, it was exactly he who was entrusted with creating their logo. The idea of the trident did not come to his mind immediately, but when it happened and he shared it with his brothers, they without much thinking approved this choice. Now it remains only to transfer the trident to paper and present it in the most favorable light. Yes, any brand should have an easily recognizable and stylish symbol, and this is an integral part of its success. For some reason, Mario was immediately sure that the trident would be remembered without difficulty, especially if the products with it were really powerful, reliable, and of high quality. But this is the business of his brothers, not his, who are ready to take up the matter with enthusiasm and who cannot imagine their lives without the world of cars. Their enthusiasm for the idea and determination will be the key to future achievements and victories. Same place, 2 decades later. Yeah, how quickly time flies, thought Mario Maserati, who had become noticeably older, who by the will of fate again found himself in the same square where he first drew the logo of the world-famous company. Now he's doing well, but lamentably, Alfieri passed away a couple of years ago due to injuries received during one of the races. At the time, he was driving along the Monte Peloritani circuit and lost control of his Maserati Tipo 26 at one of the corners. The car flew into a ditch and overturned, which caused the driver to be seriously injured. He survived, but one of the kidneys was severely damaged, and there were also regular problems with the second one. 5 years later, Alfieri decided to have second surgery, but it was unsuccessful, and a few days later he died, having lived only 44 years. True, he managed to do so much during this time that his name will surely remain in history. Well, not everyone in the skies measured out a long life, but in such cases it's, at times, truly bright. Soon after the foundation of the auto repair shop, the war began and Maserati's developments were used by the Italian army. And when the war ended, Alfieri continued to race and improve cars, as well as organize the production of candles of his own design. Being a rational person and realizing that the capabilities of a small car repair shop were limited, he began to cooperate with a fairly well-known company at that time, Diatto. This name would be forgotten by the end of the 20th century, but then its cars were successful in Italy and beyond. In addition, together with Bugatti, it was engaged in the development of aircraft engines. Thus, it's not surprising that the company's management was interested in winning car and related races. After all, they advertised its products best. But at times, some misunderstandings did take place. For example, once the Diatto 20S car was registered in the category of engines up to 2000 cc, but in fact it was equipped with a 3000 cc engine. And when it turned out, Alfieri, who was behind the wheel, was disqualified. However, after a while he was allowed to go on the track again. Trust in your abilities. Soon he began to develop a new engine, which could rightfully be called innovative. 8 cylinders, an aluminum crankcase and a split-head block, 2 specially designed carburetors, a mechanical supercharger and a number of other novelties. But sadly, in a hurry on the eve of the race, the car equipped with this engine did not have time to debug and couldn't even finish the track. After that incident, Diatto refused to finance the project and Alfieri stopped working in it, taking this unfinished car as payment for his work. It took a lot of time and money to fine-tune it, but he believed in himself and continued to work hard. And so, in 1926, the car was brought to readiness, after which, together with its owner, it took part in the popular sports car race in Sicily, the Targa Florio. Here, Alfieri was waiting for the long-awaited success. He won it in the category up to 1500 cc and became infamous, as well as made infamous the emblem that adorned the hood of his car, the Trident of Neptune, the same one that Mario drew back in 1914. And in the same year, Maserati was officially registered, which began to introduce new, even more powerful racing cars. One of them set a world speed record in September of 1929, which lasted for the next not 5 or 6, but 8 years. The other car is remembered for its successful body design, and the third for its record-breaking powerful engine. In 1930, Maserati entered their car for the prestigious Indianapolis 500 race, but that time it was unsuccessful. But after 9 years, they managed to rehabilitate themselves and win 2 years in a row. Alfieri constantly worked and didn't like to be idle, even when his health deteriorated. All the brothers were hard-working people, but Alfieri Maserati was also incredibly goal-oriented, not noticing obstacles and going forward, and only forward. By his example, he infected the rest of the family members, and therefore, after his death, the business did not stall and continued to develop successfully. Although it passed into the hands of larger companies several times, the Maserati family members always retained the technical and design parts of the work. since the new owners, no matter whom, were well aware that no one could cope with technical as well as brand promoting aspects better than them, and therefore they didn't interfere and left only some commercial parts of the activity. But Mario didn't know all this in 1934, of course. He stood in the square for a little longer, reminiscing, and then went to other places on his own business. Yes, Mario would be truly proud to be one of them, one of Maserati.